Have you ever made a small joke that spiraled into something you never could have predicted? I sure have. It started as harmless teasing, but now I'm standing on the edge of losing everything. My name's Rose, and I've got a story that might make you think twice before poking fun at someone. I'm 26, and my boyfriend Nathan is the same age. We met on Tinder and hit it off quickly. 5 years later, I thought we had something solid, like we were meant to be together forever. Nathan's always been the kind of guy who bends over backward to make me happy. He'd do anything I asked without hesitation, and that gave me a sense of control that, I'll admit, I enjoyed. I never had to lift a finger around the house. He cooked, cleaned, and covered most of our expenses because he earned more than me. I got comfortable with it, maybe too comfortable. One day, we were joking around, just like we always did, and I playfully called Nathan weak. It wasn't the first time I teased him about being too soft or too eager to please. Our friends even joked about him being a pushover, and he would laugh along with them. I thought it was harmless fun. So, when I said he should watch out because I might just leave him for someone stronger, I didn't expect anything to come of it. But that day, something changed. Nathan didn't laugh it off like he usually did. He just went silent. It was like I'd hit a nerve I didn't even know existed. Looking back, I can see how cruel my words were. Nathan had done everything to make me happy, and I mocked him for it. I didn't think much of it at the time, but it was the beginning of the end. After that day, things between us shifted. Nathan stopped checking in on me the way he used to. He used to text me to make sure I got home safe or ask how my day went. But suddenly, his calls and texts became less frequent, and when he did message me, it felt more like an obligation than genuine concern. I started to feel the distance between us growing, and I didn't know how to close the gap. Our home life changed too. Nathan had always been the one to handle most of the chores. He liked cooking and keeping the apartment tidy, which worked out great because I hated those things. But after that conversation, he stopped. The dishes piled up, the apartment felt neglected, and it was clear that Nathan wasn't as invested in taking care of things anymore. It left me feeling abandoned, like something essential between us had broken. At first, I enjoyed the newfound freedom. Nathan had always been a little overprotective, constantly wanting to know where I was or who I was with. When that stopped, it felt like a weight had been lifted. I could go out with my friends without worrying about his constant texts. I felt like I had space to breathe for the first time in years. But that freedom came with a cost. The less Nathan seemed to care, the more I started to crave his attention again. I missed the way he used to dote on me, how he used to make me feel like the center of his world. Now, it was like I didn't matter anymore, and that stung more than I'd expected. Eventually, I started seeking validation elsewhere. It began with harmless flirting when I was out with friends or chatting with people online. At first, it felt innocent enough, but as time went on, I found myself wanting that attention more and more. It filled the void that had grown in my relationship with Nathan. And before I knew it, I crossed a line I swore I never would. I cheated on him. It was a one-time thing, a moment of weakness that I deeply regret. But the guilt? That's something I couldn't shake. Worse yet, I didn't tell Nathan. I knew it would destroy him, and honestly, I was too afraid to face the consequences of my actions. So, I buried the truth and tried to carry on like nothing had happened. Then came the day that broke me. I found out Nathan had gotten a huge promotion at work, something I hadn't even heard from him directly. To make it worse, he'd bought a house without even telling me. We had always talked about buying a house together, and finding out from mutual friends that he'd gone ahead and done it on his own felt like a slap in the face. It was clear Nathan had completely shut me out of his future plans, and I had no idea how to fix it. When I confronted him, things only got worse. Nathan was furious, not just about the house, but because he knew about my infidelity. He accused me of disrespecting him for years and said he was tired of putting in all the effort while I just took him for granted. I tried to explain, tried to justify my actions, but there was no coming back from it. Nathan was done. He said he couldn't forgive me, and with that, he walked out. Now, I'm left standing in the ruins of what used to be our relationship. I don't know what to do. I relied on Nathan for so much, financially, emotionally, and now I'm staring down a future without him. My friends have turned their backs on me, our families are taking his side, and I'm lost. I don't want to lose him, but I'm afraid it's already too late. After Nathan stormed out, I felt the weight of what I had done crashing down on me. It wasn't just that I had lost his trust, I had destroyed everything we built together. For days, I tried reaching out to him, texting, calling, but Nathan didn't respond. The silence was deafening, and every hour that passed without a reply made me realize just how serious he was about leaving. I was desperate. So, I did what anyone in my position would do. I reached out to our mutual friends. I didn't tell them the whole truth, though. I couldn't. If they knew I had cheated, they'd side with Nathan in an instant. So, I played the victim, told them how Nathan had grown distant, how he'd made these major decisions without me, and how I was afraid of losing him. I begged them to talk to him, hoping they'd convince him to reconsider. At first, it seemed like my plan was working. Our friends bombarded Nathan with calls and messages, urging him to give our relationship another chance. But then, everything fell apart. Nathan, clearly fed up with their interference, finally told them the truth, that I had cheated on him. And just like that, the sympathy I'd garnered from our friends vanished. Instead of supporting me, they turned against me, angry that I had manipulated them and lied by omission. The betrayal stung. I had hoped they'd at least try to understand, but instead, they criticized me for not being honest and for dragging them into the middle of something I caused. It was like I had no one left on my side. Feeling cornered, I went to the only other people I could think of, our families. I pleaded with my parents to help me, to talk to Nathan and convince him not to leave me. They were disappointed in me too, but they still tried to offer some support. I even reached out to Nathan's parents, hoping they'd intervene, maybe help him see that our relationship was worth saving. But I underestimated how much Nathan had already distanced himself from me. Instead of helping, both sets of parents sided with Nathan. His parents were furious with me, and even mine seemed resigned to the fact that I had ruined everything. It was like no matter where I turned, there was no escape from the mess I had created. I was utterly alone, and the reality of my situation hit me harder than I could have imagined. I was in a financial bind, too. I had always relied on Nathan for so much. He handled most of the bills, the rent, everything. Without his income, I couldn't afford the apartment on my own. I tried reaching out to him directly again, hoping he'd at least be willing to talk things through. But instead of showing any sympathy, Nathan accused me of trying to ruin his life. He said whatever sympathy he once had for me was gone, and if I didn't back off, he'd get a restraining order. It was a gut punch, realizing just how far gone he was. The man who once did everything for me was now threatening legal action if I kept trying to reach out. That's when I knew it was really over. In a final act of desperation, I even showed up at Nathan's workplace, hoping to speak with him face to face. But that only made things worse. He was furious, and again, he warned me to stay away, or he'd involve the police. The thought of him being so done with me, so far beyond forgiveness, was devastating. I had never imagined things would get this bad. Now, I'm stuck. I can't afford the rent next month, and I have no idea where I'll go. Moving back in with my parents isn't an option, there's no space, and honestly, they're just as disappointed in me as everyone else. I've tried finding a roommate, but with the housing crisis, no one's willing to split the rent with me. My life feels like it's unraveling faster than I can keep up with, and I don't know what to do next. Things only continue to spiral from there. I had hoped that Nathan might come around, that maybe he just needed time to cool off before we could have a real conversation. But that wasn't the case. Every attempt I made to contact him only pushed him further away, and the reality of my situation started to sink in. Nathan had moved on. He was serious about the breakup and was already packing his things to leave. I tried everything, crying, pleading, even physically trying to stop him from leaving. But it didn't matter. Nathan was done, and he wasn't going to let me change his mind. The more I tried to cling to him, the angrier he got. I was losing him, and there was nothing I could do about it. What made everything worse was that I was broke. I had spent my last paycheck, and I had nothing left to cover the rent or bills for the next month. Without Nathan's financial support, I was in serious trouble. I reached out to our friends again, hoping they'd at least help me with the practical side of things, but they had all turned against me after Nathan revealed the truth. No one wanted to get involved anymore. In a panic, I turned to my parents once again, begging them to help me out with some money until I could figure things out. But they were tired of my mistakes. They told me that I needed to learn from this, that relying on others had put me in this situation in the first place. They were right, of course, but that didn't make it any easier to swallow. Even worse, I reached out to Nathan's parents, hoping they'd at least help me financially while I got back on my feet. But after everything, they refused to offer me any support. They were just as angry with me as Nathan was, and in their eyes, I didn't deserve their help after what I'd done to their son. It was disheartening to see how quickly everyone had turned their backs on me, but I couldn't blame them. Nathan, meanwhile, was moving into the new house he had bought without telling me. The house we were supposed to get together. That stung more than anything, knowing he had made this huge decision without me, that he was moving forward with his life while I was stuck, scrambling to keep my head above water. I knew I was losing everything, him, our relationship, our future, and I had no one to blame but myself. In one last, desperate attempt, I even went to Nathan's workplace to try and talk to him face to face. But instead of hearing me out, he threatened to file a restraining order if I didn't leave him alone. That was the final blow. The realization that the man who had once done everything for me now wanted nothing more to do with me, it was devastating. Now, I'm stuck. My friends are gone, my family is disappointed, and Nathan has made it clear he's moving on without me. I can't afford the rent next month, and I have no idea where I'll go. I've tried looking for a roommate, but with the housing crisis, it's nearly impossible to find someone willing to share the rent. It feels like my entire world is crumbling, and I have no idea what to do next. I never thought things would end up like this. I took Nathan for granted for so long, believing he'd always be there, that I could say and do anything, and he'd just keep loving me. But I pushed him too far, and now I've lost him for good. I'm left with nothing but regret and the harsh reality that I've destroyed the best thing I ever had. So here I am, trying to figure out what comes next. I'm lost, broke, and without anyone to turn to. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but I guess I don't have a choice. I have to keep moving forward, even though I don't know where I'm going anymore.